All right. So page number 136, classification by way of dose. Then we move on to 137. For all types of Ido consciousnesses, visible form alone is the object, and that pertains only to the present. Likewise, sounds, etc., are the object of the Yerdo consciousness, and those too pertain only to the present. But the object of the Mindo consciousness is of 6 kinds, and that object may be present, past, future, or independent of time according to circumstance. According to circumstances. Further, in the case of the do-freed consciousnesses, that is, rebirth linking, life continuum, and death, the object is 6-fold. And according to the situation, that object has usually, according to the situation, has usually been apprehended in the 6 doors in the immediately preceding existence as either a present or past object or as a concept. It is known as Kamma or sign of Kamma or sign of destiny. Kamma, Kamma Nimitta, Gati Nimitta. In Pali, I think in the Pali term we've heard it many times. Kamma,
Yes.
Kamma Nimitta, Gati Nimitta. Right? If we just go through that paragraph again to make sure that everyone understood. So further, in the case of the do-freed consciousnesses, that is rebirth, linking, life continuum, and death, the object is 6-fold. And according to the situation, has usually been apprehended in the 6 doors in the immediately preceding existence as either present or past or as a concept. It is known as Kamma, Kamma Nimitta, Gati Nimitta. Do you understand? Yes? Clear?
Yeah.
No? Explain? Do you want me to explain that? Someone tell me.
No, I think yeah.
It's clear.
Hello. I think we will be discussing this. We'll be discussing this in when we do the Chittaviti.
Yes.
Yeah, Bhante,
Yeah.
please, if you can explain it, it will be good, Bhante. Please explain,
Okay.
yes.
So what this is talking about, the object is 6-fold, right? The object is 6-fold. We go up, but the object of the mind though is of 6 kinds. Present, past, future, independent of time or according to circumstances, right? Now this is talking about when it comes to rebirth linking, right? Life continuum, bhavanga, and death, chuti, right? Patisandhi, bhavanga, and chuti, right? When it comes to these 3 things, or these 3 sort of consciousnesses, it takes on an object which we relate to or name as Kamma, Kamma Nimitta, or Gati Nimitta, right? For example, now, I've told you, we spoke about it last class as well, when during the time of death, when a consciousness arises, that consciousness becomes your Patisandhi, Bhavanga, and Chuti, right? This consciousness essence, meaning the type of consciousness, right? Whether it is lobha moha, dosa moha, or moha, or whether it is dvihetuka kusala, trihetuka kusala, right? Depending on these factors, we have a rebirth. But the detail of those, or the intensity of those factors depends on this object that we have taken within as a past object or a present object of the time. Remember, when certain assassinations happened during that time, it is a thing where you do not assassinate a person during prayer. I don't know whether you've heard this, right? You do not assassinate a person during prayer. Why is that? Because of the belief that that person will die and go to heaven. Right? Now, in Sri Lankan culture, with regards to treasures, right? Nidan, right? How do you bound a person as a preta? These are all stories, of course. As a preta to a treasure, you show the person the treasure, you tell the person this is your treasure, and you kill him. Right? Oh. That was the practice during the time of the kings. And then you kill him and push him on to whatever it is, and it is believed that that is how the preta or the hungry ghost, we call in English, right, is sort of bounded to a particular type of treasure, right? Particular type of treasure. Now, that is, of course, either a present object, for example, when that person is praying and you kill, it becomes a present object, or it becomes kamma nimitta or gati nimitta, the action of kamma itself, right? The memory of kamma nimitta, or gati nimitta, the image visualization of where you are going. Now, certain people during or closing, nearing the time of death, speak of different things, that they are seeing different things, right? Different people who are not there, right? There have been many instances that this has been recorded, that they sort of see sort of instances, scenarios that are not usually seen by us. Now, this is called a gati nimitta, right? A sign, a visual sign of where you are going, right? Of where you are going. So let's move on. So that is what that paragraph meant, right?
Bhante, question. Really, that is the object you take in the last consciousness, which is your the chuti chitta. So whatever the object you take during the chuti chitta will be one of those, yeah.
Yes.
One of those gati nimitta karma or
karma nimitta or gati nimitta.
Yeah. Right? It's an object that, yeah.
It is an object. It appears as an object.
Object, yes.
Right? Now, when the mind is weak, what happens now? I don't know whether I told you this. Usually during the time of death, whatever object appears to you is taken or sort of grasped onto with a higher amount of sort of strength. Now, this strength is not like this strength where you hold on to something. It's rather where you collapse onto something. Right? At that time, it can be somewhat weak. So what happens? Now, we know when a person collapses, meaning becomes unconscious, the weight of the body, it's heavier. Right? It's heavier. Somewhat in a similar fashion, right? When the mind is weak at that moment, it will take hold of, grab onto anything that sort of appears at that moment. Right? That is what we must be aware of. That is why through the practice, right, we sort of develop our practice in a way where we do not have fear, right? Where we are sort of what's the word to use? Confident, but not confident. Rather, we have a wholesome mind that does not fear the last moment or letting go of all that you have accumulated. Right? So, moving on. Would someone like to read, please?
Okay, you want me to read?
Devika, you want to read?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Guide to 17 for all types of Ido consciousnesses. In an Ido cognitive process, all the chittas pertaining to that process take the visible form as their object. The visible form is not the object solely of I consciousness. The five-door adverting consciousness, the receiving, the investigating and determining consciousnesses, the javanas and the registration chittas also occur with the same visible form as their object. Further, these chittas concurring in an Ido process take visible form alone, rupa. Occurring in an Ido process take visible form alone. Oh, I did the same thing. Okay. As object. Within that process, they cannot cognize any other kind of object. And that pertains only to the present. The word present is used here in the sense of momentary present. That is, in reference to what has actual being at the present moment of experience. Since material phenomena has a slower rate of change than mental phenomena, a single visible form can remain present to all the chittas in a process occurring in the Ido. So too for the objects of the other physical senses.
Yes. Now, momentary present. Khanika pachupanna.
Yes.
Pachaya khanika. Pachaya upanna. We are on page number 137, guide to paragraph 17, the second paragraph, Ruini and Pushpa. So, Khanika Pachaya Upanna. Moment, Pachaya, dependent, Upanna, right? Arises. Arises depending on the moment, dependent upon the moment, right? So, what this is talking about is, we will actually be discussing this again in Chittaviti, the mind which we relate to as Chittakkana. Right? Chittakkana, a mind moment. Chitta. Chitta Khana. Chitta Khana. Khana. Right? A mind moment. What is a mind moment then? A mind moment is Upada Titibanga. Right? Damsiri, I remember you quoting the speed. Can you quote the speed to us again?
It's nanoseconds.
Nanoseconds?
Yeah. So now if you examine the visual action in your eye, yeah, in one, the series of snapshots are taken, and one snapshot, it's in 10 nanoseconds or something like that. So that's why it's series of process where you take nanosecond snapshots for every nanoseconds, and that as you see it, you won't see the difference between two consecutive snapshots. Right? It's the same phenomena here. The Chittakshana is a very small existence of your consciousness.
Yeah. So that is 10 to the power?
10 to the power 6, I think. -6. Okay. I'm not sure. I think 1 millionth of a second.
Okay.
10 to the power -6, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Moving on. Devika?
The object of mind-o consciousness. The chittas that arise in the mind-o process can cognize any of the 5 physical sense objects as well as all types of mental objects, inaccessible to the chittas in a sense door process. Mind door chittas can also cognize an object belonging to any of the 3 periods of time, past, present, or future, or one that is independent of time, kala vimukta. This last expression applies to Nibbana and concepts. Nibbana is timeless because its intrinsic nature, sabbhava, is without arising, change, and passing away. Concepts are timeless because they are devoid of intrinsic nature.
Yes. Nibbana is timeless because its intrinsic nature, sabhava lakkana, is without rising. A definition of sankhara is that which arises. Right? That is one of the definitions of sankhara. Right? So sankhara, in Abhidhamma we know sankhara we have referred to as consciousness, but you will find sankhara being used to refer to any and all phenomena that arises, material or mental. Right? You will find sankhara being used in that tense as well. So please remember that. So Nibbana, now this is an important point to note. I mean, we might have come across this point. Nibbana does not arise. Right? Nibbana does not arise. It is a state, right? I mean, we can't really even call it a state. It is a position of mind lacking all that holds us or keeps us clung on to the reasoning for rebirth, meaning avidya and tanha, the sort of the causes of paticcasamuppada. Right? So the lack of these enables a positioning of Nibbana or an attribute of Nibbana to take course. Right? So really, whatever it is that in our practice, what we then sort of get or affirm about the practice is that this is a lot about letting go into the deeper notions of what letting go is. Now, all of us, now this is including myself, every practitioner, when we first start, we start sort of putting away things and throwing away things and, all of that, isn't it? But at the end of the day, how are you going to throw away your body? Right? It is all of these other things, the car that I have, the house that I have, all of these things are accessories to this body. Right? How are you going to throw away the body? That is why just throwing away things is not the answer. Throwing away things is not the answer. Separating yourself from things are not the answer. It is here that you have to let go of. How are you going to do that? Are you going to cut your throat? No. It is a mental journey to be done by wisdom. It is through that we achieve this state called Nibbana, which does not arise, mind you. Again, it does not arise because anything that arises passes away. That is a loka sammata niyama, right? That is the law of the universe. Anything that arises must sort of perish, right? Must perish. So, Devika.
Okay. According to circumstances, the Vibhavini Tika, correct?
Correct.
Explains according to whether the chittas are sense sphere javanas, direct knowledge javanas, the remaining sublime javanas, etc. For the sense sphere jhavanas, except the smile-producing consciousness, take objects of the three times and timeless objects. The smile-producing consciousness takes only objects of the three times. The direct knowledge chittas or abhinyas, see guide 18, take objects of the three times as well as the timeless. The sublime jhavanas take timeless objects, that is, concepts, except for the second and fourth immaterial jhanas, which takes place chitta as objects. The supramundane jhavanas takes a timeless object, nibbana.
All
In
right.
the case, okay.
Go
You
on.
want me to continue? Okay. In the case of the door-free consciousness, etc., the door-free consciousness is the chitta that performs in any single life the three functions of rebirth linking, bhavanga, and death. It is of 19 types, as explained earlier. The object of this chitta can be of 6 kinds. It can be any of the 5 sense objects, either past or present, or it can be a mental object. In all 3 of its functions, this chitta retains the same object from the rebirth moment to moment of disease. That same object is grasped at the moment of rebirth by the relinking consciousness. During the course of life, it is held to by every by every bhavanga chitta, and or at the moment of death, it is held to by the death consciousness. The object of the door-free consciousness in any given existence is generally identical with the object of the last cognitive process in the immediately preceding existence. When a person is on the verge of death, in the last phase of active consciousness, some object will present itself to the cognitive process, determined by previous karma and present circumstances. The object can be one of 3 kinds. 1. It can be a karma, a good or evil deed performed earlier during the same lifetime.
Devika, hold on. I'm just going to go over this again, right? So, in the case of a sense sphere rebirth, you understand when it says sense sphere rebirth, yes? Good.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? Anyone, now actually before, make sure that you Google 31 planes of existence and have a chart with you, please. Just go through that chart and have it with you, because we will be discussing or referring to the different planes a lot. So it is important to have that chart, maybe near your study table, just have it there. And Dhamsri always has the chart. Yeah, so make sure that you do have that chart with you, right? In the case of a sense sphere rebirth, any one of the 5 sense objects apprehended in any of the 6 doors in the last jhana process means it's talking about the last process of the chitta viti, right? Within the chitta viti, this is then the last jhana process is the death process, right? This is the death process. So last jhana process of the preceding existence may become an object as the sign of karma nimitta, right? Do you understand that part?
Yes.
Good. Such an object on the occasion of rebirth linking, and the first series of the bhavangas can be either past or present, right? Can be either past or present. it can be present because a sense object apprehended by the last Javana process of the previous existence may still persist as far as the first few mind moments of the new existence. What does that mean? What does that mean, Hemamali? What do you think that means, Hemamali? Did we get stuck? Okay. Any idea?
I have no idea, Bhante.
No idea. Who has Noeline? Your mic is unmuted, so I'm going to ask you. Noeline, do you have any idea?
No, Bhante, sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
Devika,
can be 6 kinds.
any
Yes.
idea?
Yeah, it can be of the 5 sense objects. So either the past or present. Whatever you have taken into account in the past or at the moment of the present, whatever that object that comes into your mind as you're nearing this process. It can be a good karmic thing or
No.
akusala thing. No, not that. 6 kinds. It can be.
Bhante, is it something to do with the length of the object existence? 17 steps, right? So in the last thought process, you start your object in the third chittaksana. So because you start your object at the third chittaksana, again that object can survive for next thought process.
But how does that object become an object to us?
It's the what we explained in the karma nimitta and gati nimitta. The last during the last conscious thought process, whatever the object you take, it will be carried over, or it will be continued, not carried over, continued into the next birth, right? Which is we explain in, it can be karma, gati nimitta and karma nimitta. And the reason why it is carried over to the next consciousness, because there's a time lag between consciousness and the object. Object also can survive for 17 chittaksanas, right?
What kind of object?
Whatever the object you take in the last thought process, yeah. No, take your last thought process. I think we can discuss this in the next.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the case of the sense sphere rebirth, any one of the 5 sense objects apprehended in any of the 6 doors, in the last Javana process of the preceding existence may become an object as a sign of karma. Such an object on the occasion of rebirth linking and the first series of the bhavanga, meaning now when they carry off, now Damsiri, that's where rebirth linking and the first series of bhavanga.
Yeah.
So what does that say? There is a cheda also, mind you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? There has to be a cheda as well, isn't it? Because the bhavanga will not continue to vibrate, isn't it? right? So there will be chalana, upacheda, chalana, and a cheda,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? So then, on the occasion of rebirth linking and the first series of bhavangas can be either past or present.
Yes.
It can be present because the sense sphere object apprehended by the last Dhamma process of the previous existence may be still present as far as a few mind moments of the new existence.
Bhante, that's what I was trying to explain.
Yeah. So this
Because,
is So this is relating to specifically mental, not the physical attributes of whatever the focus becomes. Right now, if you remember, now this is a position sometimes people are remember the stories of when so Damsiri was right. This is specifically with regards to remember the stories of where a person passed away and was reborn as a sort of a were sort of an insect on the clothes, right? Or as a ghoul around. Now still Sri Lankans, that's how the sort of the Haddavasi sort of came about, right? Actually there is no true base for the Haddavasi, but then we keep it going on because Haddavasi, if we don't scare the people, they will not even do the dane. For the dead, not for us, for the dead. It is because of that a bit of fear that they sort of do continue the fear of being haunted, right? So here it then becomes, it is not anything to do. For example, if it is a sight that triggers the kamma nimitta, kamma or the kamma nimitta, it is not the rupa which becomes which is what is talked about here, right? Which is what is not talked, that's not what is talked about here. It is quite similar to, for example, when people who are reborn children start speaking about their past lives, right? Where that connection still exists, not a connection to the past, but the memory still exists. Right? Still exists. So the reason they say behind this is because usually humans do not, or rarely do they are they reborn as humans again in the preceding or the next existence. It's sort of we are interrupted, or we interrupt ourselves from the human existence because of different karmas that we sort of
in real life.
So when we are reborn as deities, they say that deities do remember, but because of the level of pleasure and sort of the excitement of that plane, they do not, or rather they forget very easily of the previous sort of thing. That is also very much sort of, I think, relatable as humans. Sometimes we go through suffering and then we come into a place of pleasure and we tend to forget about the suffering or the places that we came from, right? Places that we came from. That is something that we can relate to. I mean, we can see it as an example happening in this life within humans as well, isn't it? We do sometimes easily forget when we do come into places of pleasure. So that is what, so it is not the physical attribute, it is the mental object that is repeated or clung on to up until the vibrations come to an end, which triggers the next couple of chittavrittis forward, right? It is that essence, remember. Now, for example, when we talk about kammaja rupa is created by the intensity of that consciousness, right? The consciousness has no kammaja, right? For example, kammaja is, now what is kamma? Kamma is the energy. Kam, isn't it? The root of kam, which is the action. The action is named as kamma because the action gives rise to energy, right? Now, the duty of the chitta is not to produce kamma. Please understand what I'm telling here, right? The duty of the consciousness is not to produce kamma. Kammaja Rupa, right? Kammaja Rupa arises in its respective place. For example, you get mad at something. Your face turns red, right? What happens? That is Kammaja Rupa. But the chitta's duty was not creating Kammaja Rupa. Kammaja Rupa was created according to a Rupa Niyama. Got it? Right?
Yeah.
Now understand that chitta is doing its duty. Parallel to that, the other forces are also sort of continuing, or the duties. Hold on.
In all three of its functions, this chitta remains the same object from the rebirth moment of disease.
Yes. Did you understand that?
Yes, Kammaja Rupa. Yes.
Yeah. Any doubts?
No, I understood.
No.
Hello, Bhante.
Yes.
Sorry. I was just wondering, if the I think that the Chuti Chitta, the object, if it's the same through the whole thing, like through, is it the same through many different births, or is it just for one birth and
One
then
birth.
into
The immediate preceding birth.
immediately? Okay.
Yeah. The very next birth. Right. Of course. I mean, there is no chance there is no chance that the roots could be, for example, now I could die today with, let's say, 3 hetuka, right? Reborn as a 3 hetuka, and then my death in the next birth could also be a 3 hetuka, or a death by 3 roots, right? That could happen, but the essence of the 3 hetuka will be different.
Will it always be the same, or can it be different?
It can be different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May I ask, how old are you, please?
I'm 14. I'm doing it with my grandmother.
Oh, okay. Lovely. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
So, then if everyone is clear, then we can move on, right? So the chitta consciousness does its own thing, and then the rupa niyama takes its own pace, right? Do not think that it's the consciousness's duty to give birth to rupa. No, right? Remember, when the foundation is present, it happens. Do you get it? When the foundation, when the sun is out, it's hot, right? Or warm, whatever it is. That is the cause and effect of it, right? It is a process. If you plant a seed, water it, the nutrients are there, it will grow. The foundations are present, it will continue, right? Remember that. We will revisit it, okay? And then
Sorry, Bhante, can I ask a
yes,
question, please? Just to ask you, so to change the continuation of it, is it the Javana that changes it?
what do you mean change?
Like the previous person asked, does it continue directly from one birth to the next birth? You said it's just the preceding birth that it would be relevant to,
Yeah.
But it could change. It might be the same roots, but it might change.
Yeah.
So does that change happen because of the javanas? That's when we can change it through being yoniso manasikara and being aware, being in sati and developing kusala. Is that how you change the course of things?
That
Do you understand my question?
I mean, that's a very interesting question. The change happens at the last Vidya again.
Yes.
Right? The change happens. Now, for example, if it is a 3 hetuka birth, The change happens at the last viti or the last javana process,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
However, the quality or the essence of the consciousness which has become the Bhavanga, Parisandhi and the Chuti, or rather now the Bhavanga, the essence of it will always remain throughout birth. Right? Because now when you ask that question, maybe I was taken back to neuroset points. But neuroset points are developed through the sort of the child sort of initial couple first few years, right? So this is in a deeper sense, deeper than a neuroset point as well, right? But in the process of in talking the context of Dhamma, it changes, that energy is created at the end, which then changes that flow.
It says.
What's the doubt, Miri?
No, I just wondered at what point it changes. So is it in that last Chittaviti? Is it in the Javana process
Javana.
it changes?
Javana.
Yeah. Okay. That's
because
what I
remember, Miri, Javana is where the energy is.
Yeah.
Right? Javana is where the karma is created.
Yeah.
Right?
But in the last one, it's only 14. It's only the shorter. It's shorter, isn't it? It doesn't go the full 17.
Yes, it's shorter, and we'll be coming to that, right?
Thank you.
For the others, we'll be coming to that.
Yeah, Bhante, I have a question now. Once your next birth, you start with karmaja rupa, all right? Once you start with new karma rupa, then all the wholesome or unwholesome resultant karma will act on it and shape your existence, right? And so what you have, is it, that's the way I understand it, right? Then once you have karmaja, then you have chittaja, which is you start thinking as you develop in the womb. Then you have jivitendriya and all these rupas.
Yeah.
Now, so the most important one is karmaja rupa, which is actually the governing or the resultant karma will act on it and shape your next birth.
Yeah.
But the sign you get is just a sign or some indication of where you are going, right?
Okay. So what's the question, Damsiri?
Now, is it the explanation we can give actually? Because in the last birth, you have an object which is going to be your next birth object for your bhavanga, right? And that object is just a sign only, but the actual resultant of the karma you have done will be manifested in your karmaja rupa, right? Is it the correct interpretation?
Yes. I mean, basically, yes, right? But it has a complex way of working it out, actually, right?
Yeah, once we do the rupa,
but
come to
that, once we come to that, we can discuss the complexities of that process, because
that's right.
Because Kam and Utu then works together, because that word you use, Damsiri, the mold. Right? The molding sort of takes me to a different level.
Okay.
Because if we say arising, then it's Kam, right? Molding is done by many.
Okay.
Right? Molding is done by many. I mean, what that sort of takes me to pottery, that is takes me. So let's discuss all that later.
Okay.
All right. So
So you want me to start from the object of the door free, or from where where it says number 9, from the middle?
Okay, hold on, please. Yes, no, you continue from where you stopped before.
Okay, so that little paragraph, and then it goes 1, 2, like that, okay?
Okay.
The object of the door-free consciousness in any given existence is generally identical with the object of the last cognitive process in the immediately preceding existence. When a person is on the verge of death, in the last phase of active consciousness, some object will present itself to the cognitive process, determined by previous karma and present circumstances. This object can be one of 3 kinds. 1. It can be a karma, a good or evil deed performed earlier during the same lifetime. Number 2, it can be a sign of karma, karma nimitta, that is, an objective or image associated with the good or evil deed that is about to determine rebirth, or an instrument used to perform it.
I'm your assistant, here to help you throughout your day.
Yeah, please continue.
For example, a devout person may see the image of a monk or temple. A physician may see the image of patients. A butcher may hear the groans of slaughtered cattle, or see an image of a butcher knife. Number 3, it can be a sign of destiny, gatinimitta, that is, a symbol of the realm into which the dying person is about to be reborn. For example, a person heading for a heavenly rebirth may see celestial mansions. A person heading for an animal rebirth may see forests or fields. A person heading for a rebirth in hell may see infernal fires. Those are the 3 kinds.
Yes, yes. You know, once there was this person that I knew who, you know, she called me right before she died, right? So she had cancer, and they were not coming from, you know, a wealthy background, but they were very much middle class. But the son had exhausted all his resources to treat the mother, and the mother had, you know, mother had the cancer. So so she called me from the hospital right before she died, right? And she was like, Bhante, you know, I'm burning. I was like, what? And she was like, you know, Bhante, tell me something that, you know, I could possibly do, right? That I could possibly do to sort of avail the suffering. And the thing was, I was in a bit of a difficult situation because I knew like the son did not have resources to do anything, right? Because I had just visited them the week before, right? And that put me into a really uncomfortable situation, because what am I supposed to tell her, right? Because I know that the son does not have the wealth or the, you know, to sort of satisfy whatever it is that I do tell her to do. But the thing was, you know, she was saying, you know, Bhante, you know, I see fires, I'm burning, my whole body is burning, and all of that. And shortly afterwards, she passed away, right? And there are actually even a couple of monks actually who, for example, now in Abhidhamma Thero's Guru Swamin Wahansa, Kadavaddi Sri Jinamansa Mahanayaka Swamin Wahansa, who initiated the beginning of the Sri Kalyani Yoga Ashrama Samstha in Sri Lanka. When he passed away, he passed away quite with a lot of awareness, really, because he was a very, very, he was a very good monk and with a lot of practice. And he spoke about, seeing chariots and divine horses and shores and people in shores and all of that 3 days before he passed away, right? And there are so many stories of that sort, really. And at the end of the day, it has a lot to do with the life that you live. So take inspiration by all of these things. It is nothing to be afraid of, right? You just live a good life that you are happy, and you people that who are around you are happy, and sort of develop that which is wholesome, right? That is the most important thing. That is the most important thing. So where did you stop, Devika?
At bottom page of 138, which says, according to the situation. Sambhavam.
Is there anything that any of you do not understand? Any questions that you might be having? No? Everyone is clear on what we have read regarding the Gati Nimitta and all of that?
Yes.
Good. Good. Right. Devika, please continue.
According to the situation, Yatha Sambhavam, the Vibhavini Tika explains this phrase to mean that the object cognized by the door-freed chitta varies according to the door at which it was originally apprehended by the last mental process of the preceding life, according to whether it is a present or past object or a concept, and according to whether it is a kamma, a sign of karma, or a sign of destiny. The explanation is as follows. In the case of a sense sphere rebirth, any one of the 5 sense objects apprehended in any of the 6 doors in the last jhana process of the preceding existence may become an object as sign of karma. Such an object on the occasions of rebirth linked and the first series of the bhavangas can be either past or present. It can be present because the sense object apprehended by the last jhana's process of the previous existence may still persist as far as the first few mind moments of the new existence. Thereafter, for the bhavanga and for the death consciousness of the new existence, that object is necessarily past. A mental object apprehended in the mind door in the last jhana process of the previous existence may become an object of the rebirth linking, bhavanga, and death consciousness of the new existence as a karma or as a sign of karma that is past. If the object should be a sign of destiny, it is usually a visible form apprehended in the mind door and is present. In the case of a fine material sphere rebirth, the object of the 3 process-freed chittas is a mental object apprehended in the mind door process of the preceding existence. It is a concept, hence timeless, and is considered a sign of karma. So too, in the case of rebirth into the first and third immaterial planes. In the case of rebirth into the second and fourth immaterial planes, the object, being a chitta, is a mental object. It is past and is also considered a sign of karma. Usually, I don't know how you pronounce that Pali word, Yebu Yena.
Yebu Yena.
Yes. This qualification is added with reference to those reborn after passing away from the realm of non-percipients, being asanya satta, a realm in the fine material plane where consciousness is altogether absent. For such beings, the object of the door-freed chittas cannot be something apprehended in the immediately preceding existence, since in that existence there was no consciousness. For these beings, the object presents itself to the rebirth, bhavanga, and death consciousness as a sign of karma, etc., entirely through the power of a past karma from an existence prior to that in the non-percipient realm.
Thank you, Devi. Now, this is a very special case and the only scenario where it occurs, where the Chuti Chitta, now Asanna Satta, right?
Yes.
The Asanna Satta, through that whole sort of time that you are a being or a Asanna Satta, there is no consciousness. The body is there.
Yes.
How is the body maintained? Through the power. This is not explained, by the way.
Yes.
How the intrinsic sort of interplays of this is not explained, but it is said that it is the power of the past or the patisandhi of the previous, before the Asanna Satta birth, which maintains the Asanna Satta body, right? It happens in a way beyond us, right? And when the Asanna Satta time comes to an end, that end and the rebirth is also determined by that birth as a karma nimitta of the patisandhi which gave rise to the Asanna Satta birth, which is a very complicated thing actually.
Yes.
You know, why is it complicated? Because then you would think, shouldn't we be reborn again as an Asanna Satta?
Yeah.
Right? But here, the karma nimitta, what is said is, the karma nimitta can be, the sign of karma can be that something which sort of floats around in his samsara.
Can you explain that again, Bhante?
Yeah. Now, we do not have just one karma, right? There are many karmas at play, right? These karmas, right? The confusing part of this is maybe when we have one eminent monk who gives us a talk, maybe we can ask them, you know, this question. So one of you remember it and ask them when you come. But the Asanna Satta birth does not have a consciousness. The Asanna Satta body is maintained by the previous patisandhi consciousness energy that is developed through the death process of the previous birth before the Asanna Satta birth. The birth after the Asanna Satta birth is determined by the energy or the patisandhi energy of the birth previous to the Asanna Satta birth. That is why, remember, I think last week or the week before, we spoke of the past lives. And when it comes to past lives, what happens is the Asanna Satta, you don't see anything. What happens is you jump from this end to the end before this beginning of the Asanna Satta, right? Almost like that sort of reminds me of an air pocket, right? Where the flight sort of, you know, you feel as if the flight is dropping almost, right? The sense of emptiness there.
Space in.
Yeah. So it is something of that sort, which is a bit of a difficult situation because we do not have a lot of information regarding that, right?
And
We don't
Swami
have-
answer,
yeah.
you go to Asanya Sattva by dhyanas, isn't it?
Yeah.
You, through dhyanas, goes to Asanya Sattva.
Yeah. So it is a door freed, right? Dwara Vimutti object, Vimutta object, right? So that is the plane of the Asanna Sattva. Any questions or comments?
Bhante, isn't it a fourth plane?
Hold on. Why are you? Okay. Try speaking now, Dil.
Of course.
Bhante, is it?
Dil, you have two computers running there.
Because what is happening is one is fading off because the charge is not there, so the other one is in the background.
Try telling. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll try and mute
No,
myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bhante. So I thought this Asana Sattva stage was actually a fourth. It's a realm of mindless beings in the fourth jhana plane. Because when it goes after the third jhana, you get the Vehapala, then you get Asana Sattva, Avihara, Tapan, like that. So is that different? That's really one of the realms on the fourth jhana plane. Or is that is also called Asana Sattva, and this is also called Asana Sattva.
Okay. No. There is only one Asana Sattva, right?
Right.
This fourth jhana refers to
Yeah.
right, the upekha, the position Asana,
Yes.
right? The positioning of upekha here, right?
Because when you look at those 31 realms, Asana Sattva is a realm.
Yeah.
In the material, after fourth, in the material realms, but it is after the fourth jhana. Because you get the Vehapala is the last one. So the first plane are the three Brahma realms. And then the second jhana, we have the Appamana and the Abhasara, where we were talking about in Agana Sutta. And then after that, you get the third plane, the Parita Subha, the Appamana Subha, and the Subhakena. Yeah. And in the fourth plane jhana,
okay, hold on. Right now, it is very important to understand. Now, what is your end question, Dil?
No, just to know whether, because following from what Devika asked, within Asana Sattva, isn't it in one of the jhana planes? And then you were explaining it. So I also thought that Asanatan, everybody doesn't go to Asanatan. If you have reached that fourth jhana plane, then it applies. But now I'm getting a little confused. When we're talking about Chutta Sitta and Patisandhi, and when you talked about Bhavangan, is it for in everybody's process of the jhavanas, and when we are going the linking consciousness and the Bhavanga Chitta after rebirth, the Chutta Sitta, or is it for people who have actually developed that fourth jhana place? Because that is where the Asana Sattva one realm is called. That's what I couldn't understand. Maybe
this
it's only
Asana Sattva plane. Okay.
Yes.
We will go into this question, right? We will go into this question because it is altogether a different thing. We will go into it next week, please. Right?
Okay. All right.
This Asana Sattva plane, please understand, there's a difference between Asanya Sattva and Nirodha Samapatti. That is first to be known. Right? Asana Sattva and Nirodha Samapatti are two different planes.
Yes.
Also, in the Asana Sattva plane, right? In the Asana Sattva plane, it is said, there is a position where the Buddha says that this Asana Sattva plane is like a stone that which is suspended in the air. Which relates to the consciousness. Right? So this consciousness, now a stone, it is as if this consciousness is frozen. Right? It is as if, but the freezing of this consciousness, now remember, when we come now with that dhyanic state, when a person goes to that level of subtle dhyanic absorption, the mind attached onto anything is so subtle and fine that it can exist without being tracked. Right? Without being tracked. It is as if it is frozen, and it is a position frozen, and the most sort of activity that we see is where the mind was before it arose within the Sannasatta.
Before that fourth jhanic plane.
Yeah.
So for those people who are developing.
Sannasatta is non-percipient, meaning no perception. Right? It's a place of no perception, which means perception we know. Apart from perception, there are many other parts of mind. Right? It is not a state where it is known as where it is completely devoid of consciousness. The consciousness exists in such a such a subtle fine state that you can't track it.
Yeah. So therefore it's a state there, but it is not a plane of existence.
It is a plane of existence.
Yeah. So a plane of, if you have developed to that level of jhanic consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I want. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
You made it very clear. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Bhante, I heard a slightly different explanation to this.
Tell us.
If somebody is contemplating on consciousness as adverse thing, and he wanted to reject the consciousness, and consciousness is so bad, and that sort of approach will brings you to asanyasatta existence.
Exactly. That is
because
true.
because you reject the consciousness.
The viraga of the chitta viraga.
That's right. Chitta viraga. Yes.
Yeah. Chitta viraga. It is through chitta viraga. That is why I don't want to answer Dale's initial question as to whether it is the fourth jhana, because it is not just the fourth jhana. It is the chitta viraga. Right? So the chitta viraga does not happen specifically within the fourth jhana. Right? It doesn't happen specifically within the fourth jhana. The normal fourth jhana is much more grosser than this consciousness which allows for a birth within the asanyasatta plane. So we will go into that next week. Right? Then we will go into that next week. Right? So Dale, forget ask me. Huh? All right. So Damsiri, that is what it is. It is the chitta viraga. Right? So let us move on. Are there any other questions anyone would like to ask? Okay. Devika?
Okay, it's on page 140 now.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of Pali in there.
Yes, skip all the Pali.
Yes. So in 140, page 140, of these I consciousness, etc., each take a single object, respectively, visible form, etc. But the triple mind element takes all 5 kinds of sense object, visible form, etc. The remaining sense sphere resultants and the smiling consciousness always have only sense sphere objects. Right? You want me to read it again? That paragraph?
I think the paragraph is quite clear. Do you find it confusing? Anyone? Devika, you don't understand it?
No, I do. It says of these I consciousness, etc., each takes a single object respectively. Yes, visible form, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next paragraph, the new unwholesome consciousnesses and the sense sphere jhavanas that are disassociated from knowledge take all objects except supramundane states. The sense sphere wholesome consciousnesses associated with knowledge and the wholesome direct knowledge consciousness consisting in the fifth jhana take all objects except the path and fruit of arahatship. The sense sphere functionals associated with knowledge, the functional direct knowledge consciousness, and the determining consciousness can all take all kinds of objects. Among the immaterial consciousnesses, the second and fourth take sublime objects. All the remaining sublime consciousnesses take concepts as objects. The supramundane consciousnesses take nibbana as object.
Okay. That is clear as well, isn't it? My mind is actually now regarding, I'm remembering now there is a sutta in the when we talk about the asanna sattas, right? We're going back there again. When we talk about the asanna sattas, in the Maha Nidana Sutta and the Maha Vedalla Sutta, right? In the Maha Nidana Sutta and the Maha Vedalla Sutta, now I remember this after I said, it is not consciousness, it is perception. But in the Maha Nidana Sutta and the Maha Vedalla Sutta, it is said that feeling, Vedana, perception, Sanya, and Vijnana, and Vijnana, consciousness, right, are conjoined. If perception and sensations do not arise, consciousness does not arise. Right? Now, this is found in the Vedalla Sutta and the Maha Nidana Sutta. Right? So then that would say that there is no consciousness. Let me do a bit more research and we will discuss this next week. Okay? So disregard my point of saying that it is not consciousness but sanya. Disregard that point and allow me to go back and come back to you. So you also do your own research, right?
Bhante,
Yeah.
can I just ask something, Bhante? At that state of neither perception nor non-perception, so when you get to that immaterial fourth jhana, which is the last one, I think, then to go to, if you let go of your consciousness, after that, then is that the state where you go into nibbana?
No, I don't think so.
When you, I mean, I suppose the fetters have to be.
The thing is, Samantha. Now we go through Rupa, right? In the Rupa Vachara. And then to go through the Rupa into the Arupa, we do Rupa Viraga and then go into Arupa, right?
Yes, yeah.
We sort of push away the attachment we have to Rupa by Rupa Viraga and go into Arupa. Then to forfeit or rather go above or beyond the Arupa, we sort of get rid of the mind fact and do the Arupa Viraga also. Right? That is what takes us to a position such as Asanna Satta. Right? But now see, Nibbana is then deeper than the Rupa and the Arupa Viraga to an extent where we achieve and uniformly integrate with the knowledge, the wisdom of absolute sunyata. Now think of it in this way, right? Now this is my green tea, which is the arupa, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Now, this I have achieved this state by letting go of the rupa, right? And then picking up the arupa. But this arupa, what I'm holding on to it, how I'm holding on to it is also through my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get it? So Nibbana would be a state where this hand too disappears.
Mm.
You know?
So if you let go of the consciousness,
right? But
mm-hmm.
to get into this position to understand sunyata, that is why we go through all of this.
So the state where you reach, where you let go of your consciousness, when does that happen then?
The state that happens through that happens to neva sanyana, right? And before that, which was the other one? Remind me, please. Arupa. The four. So through, of course, the last one, which is neva sanya, na sanyayatana, right? That is where we sort of do the chitta viraga to an extent where we achieve a state or form or place, really, of mind where we can sort of have that subtlety of mind, right? Have the subtlety of mind. But remember, that was also a journey. Starting from the letting go of vitaka vichara.
Yeah.
Right. And remember, I also mentioned this rupa arupa has been separated because of the object, not because of it. That is why in certain occasions we see the arupa spoken of as the fourth jhana. Right?
Arupa.
On occasion we see it spoken of as the fourth jhana because of the jhana factors there, which is upekka and ekagata. Right?
I thought yeah, the arupa, are they not the immaterial, the four?
Immaterial, but same jhana factors.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yes.
No?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So please remember, next class, have your 31 planes of existence, right? Have your 31 planes of existence, and chart, have a printout or somewhat, because we will be referring to it a lot through, especially Chitta Vritti and all of these things going forward, we'll be referring to it a lot, right? So also make sure that you do read, right? Do your reading, and remember that now you might be, some of you, I'm sure, before bed you read and all of these things. Reading a book like this, because it's sort of really sort of more than reading a novel, this sort of stimulates your mind, right, and keeps it active. So it's actually very good for your health as well, right? So do get into reading the book, right? Although we do go through it during the class, make sure that you read it on your own time as well, right? Yes, Dil, you want to ask something? We can't hear you, Dil. Can't hear you. Okay. So until Dil fixes a mic.
Can I ask one question, please?
Yeah.
Remember the last time when we had the class last Monday, you showed a chart. You said you're going to put it in the...
the Sutta class.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you put it in the thing? I was looking for it there. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding today? Or yes, Damsari?
Yeah, last time we were talking about, we forgot about the word. Was it vipallasa? When we talk about the objects has got the intrinsic characteristic, whether repulsive or attractive. But as far as individual is concerned, you can have a vipallasa, which is in English it's called pervasive, or what is the other word? Distortions. So that's the word you are looking.
Ditti vipallasa and sanna vipallasa.
Yeah, that's right. That's the word you are looking for last time, probably, when we were talking about objects. No. Okay, yeah, all right.
No. Vipallasa is a different thing. But no.
Okay, yeah.
Vipallasa, my understanding is like hallucinations.
Yeah.
For example, Ditti vipallasa is, of course, the dittis that we discussed in the sutra class. That's hallucination of mind. You think it is true, but it actually isn't.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Ditti vipallasa, Chitta vipallasa, Sanya vipallasa, when the mind is overtaken by the five hindrances, any thoughts that precedes the five hindrances are all categorized by the Buddha as vipallasa, illusions.
Yeah. Illusions. Okay.
Yeah. Dil, can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. No, what we were talking about, those the last four jhanas. So those have as object as a boundless space and boundless consciousness and boundless nothingness, and then neither perception. So that's why they have been given those names as Akasanananchayana and Vijnananyatana and Akinyatata and Nivasanavasana, because they have got
my ears, Dil.
Can't hear you. It's too loud.
No. The way you're pronouncing it, you're hurting my
ears. Akasananchayatana.
No. Okay, let's not go. Please proceed. Continue.
Yeah. Right. So those four states, because they are the object is the sphere of boundless space, so it becomes a boundless consciousness. Those becomes the base of the object that we have, as opposed to when you think of Nibbana, where the object is Nibbana, when you go to superconscious. Yeah. So that those four stages are given those names because they have as the object boundless space or consciousness or nothingness. So therefore the names are the same. Those last four things are called those Akasananchayatana, Vijnananchayatana, and Akinyatana, and Neva Sanya, Nasanna Yatana, because those are the bases.
Yeah.
It's because I'm just reading it off here. It's not So when you look at when you have the chart in front, it makes very sensible to see that, because that is what the object is, the base of those, then therefore the plane of existence becomes that one. So that's why if you have the chart, it's very easy to relate the two when you're speaking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay. So any other questions?
Bhante, sorry. I had one quick question. For someone who dies in their sleep, in the case of the object of the door-freed consciousness, the patisandhi, how does it come, like the visual object? Does it come like as a dream or something, or does it happen at all in someone who dies in their sleep?
Yeah. So it can be, so the kamma nimitta, actually kamma nimitta and the gati nimitta, right? The sign of the kamma and the sign of the destination can arise in their sleep, right? Can arise in their sleep. It could be, now this is not like a dream, this is an absolute vision.
Okay.
Right? This is a vision itself, right? So from the descriptions that we have of people who have experienced it, they experience it as it is happening in front of them. Right? So even when people are asleep, when people die from their sleep, it could arise as a kamma nimitta or gati nimitta. All three of that can arise in the similar way. Right? In a similar way.
Thank you, Bhante.
Clear?
Yes, thank you very much, Bhante.
Okay.
Bhante, when people die in their sleep, sometimes they say, oh, that's a peaceful death or something like that. But still, if you have done bad, your karmas will come, even if you are asleep or not.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So you can't say it's peaceful.
Yeah. We are very concerned about. No, all of you are very concerned about this death factor. that is the plight of doing a senior citizens class here.
That is why, Swainasa, we are getting closer and closer. So we want to do a lot of Dhammic practices so that we will get a good nimitta.
Good nimitta. The thing is, that actually shouldn't be your focus, as I've told you before. You know, your focus should very much be in the present moment. Building a present moment.
Bhante, just quickly, Bhante. So when you're dying, you're fully conscious, aren't we? We know exactly what's happening. Or there's a bit that you go unconscious. I suppose the body goes first, isn't it? It becomes heavy and everything. And
no, the body never goes first. The mind goes first. First Dhammapada.
Yes.
No, the first Dhammapada, right? The mind goes first. The mind is the forerunner.
Oh,
right?
At death, okay.
Right?
Oh, I thought the body gets cold and all this stuff, isn't it? And then it goes up and up, and then into the mind, and then the so
I
the
have
mind
seen such a thing in cartoons.
Yeah.
But not in reality. Not in so the mind goes first, and it's not a doubt. Also, doctors also accept the fact that, of course, after the consciousness is not there, it is the fact where the mind starts sort of rotting. The process of rotting starts afterwards. The decaying process of the body. Yeah.
And I know another thing, Swainasa, when a person dies in a hospital, they don't, as soon as the doctors pronounce that person is dead, they won't send the body to the mortuary immediately. They keep the body for 2 hours in the ward, thinking, I don't know whether that something will happen or what, because I'm talking to you by undergoing that, because my dad passed away with a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And his body was kept in the cardiology unit, in the ward, before his body was sent to the mortuary.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I was there, and then, like you said, I went near him, and the cardiograph was going up, and then it's going blank, and so maybe that's when I was thinking, maybe that's when the chitta vitis were happening or whatever. So that's why I was curious to know.
Okay.
Can I just ask?
Yes, Padma.
Can I ask? Yeah. No, I was similarly thinking of a patient who is unconscious. Some people first go unconscious and then they die. And how these things happen then.
Yes, good question.
The Chuti process.
Yeah.
Shall we discuss all of that at the Chuti Chittaviti?
Okay, right.
Because anyways, we will have to go into all of that because of the weak things. But it is always said, at the time of death, the Chuti Viti must arise. For example, let's say you're walking on the road and someone, something like a terrorist attack, you're just doing your shopping, or you're walking on the road or something like that. Even like in ancient times when, when your neck is cut off or something like that, not expecting it at all. Mm-hmm. It is said that the Chuti Chitta happens so fast. Chuti Viti happen so fast that it will always happen. No one will die without a chuti viti.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Yes, but I was thinking about the consciousness just prior to that. What happens that if you are unconscious? That's what I was thinking about.
The consciousness prior to that, agantuka bhavanga chuti viti.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. The thing is, we are used to thinking in a very gross manner, but in reality, these things happen so fast, right? So fast that it is that we can't even comprehend it. That is why all of these processes, these interactions between you and I are so smooth, right? It happens so fast. Right now, for example, you remember, back in the day, the slow computers, now you see, these computers, they're so fast and they're becoming faster and faster and faster, right? They're trying to achieve a state close to the human mind and beyond, right? Which now just imagine, so these computers, so our brains are actually better and more advanced than all of these things, right? The workings of our mind is more advanced than all of these things that we have, right? However, of course, these things can be more dependable in those ways, but our minds work so fast. That we should remember, right? That we should remember. Okay, so it's 8:40, so we will wrap up the session. I will see you all day after tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, and nothing else. So I'll see you. Take care. Goodbye. If there are any questions that you have after reading, please write them down and ask me next time, and we can discuss. So do your own research as well. I'll see you. Bye.
Okay. Buddhi Saranai, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Welcome.